Oh, they stuck you in the
Hey,
closet.
yeah, well, you have no idea what a logistical nightmare this has been for the last 15
Are
minutes.
you serious? Dude, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's my ineptitude, and then my daughter couldn't get in her Arizona State email because it's on her laptop, and then I was late anyway. Just
I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's all right. No,
No, man, I appreciate it.
no, dude, it's good to see you, man. Well, dude, so I invited you on because you are absolutely one of my favorite galleries. Probably might be number one, man. I might be number one
Oh, wow. Thanks, Jeff.
for a lot
That's
of
really
reasons.
cool.
A lot of reasons. So you are from the Paul Scott Gallery. You're Paul. Your dad's Scott.
Correct. Yeah, he
And
go he goes by our middle name, so he always has gone by Scott. I'm a junior technically, so you could call either of us either name and we'd be fine.
what do you go by
Just
socially? Paul or?
Paul.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, you
but
do. Okay.
he was named after my great uncle Paul, so he was always called Scott growing up
Oh, no kidding. Okay. That's my middle name,
for what
Scott.
it's worth. Nice.
So, yeah, dude, the reason I love your gallery is a couple reasons. One, because you guys are seriously down to earth. Every time I come to Scottsdale, every January, you guys always make me feel so welcome. And not only me, but when I bring my students in from the workshop I'm teaching at Scottsdale Artist School, you treat them the same way, which I think is just really cool. There's a lot of
Well, thank
galleries
you.
out there that, there's kind of this not all. There's a lot of great galleries, but there's this
Yeah.
sort of highbrow kind of mentality behind the desk. And
Well,
you
yeah,
guys,
thank you.
you guys are
Sorry to
great.
hear that. That really shocks me nowadays, but thank you.
About you or about the other galleries?
No, I mean, I thank you for saying that. We try really hard and we hire people that fit that mold.
Oh yeah, you
I'm
do.
just shocked that people still have that other experience. I
Well,
just don't get it.
not well. It's all relative, right? I mean, I think everyone
I
on your
guess so.
street is pretty friendly. Um, but you guys go above and beyond, which is awesome. But also, you have amazing taste in art. And we'll talk
Thanks.
about that. I mean, you guys, I've bought, I don't know how many, maybe 3 or 4 pieces from you, which is a lot for
Yeah.
an artist, I think.
Dude, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I just keep getting tempted. Every time I come in, I'm tempted. So, yeah, anyway, great gallery. So tell me a little bit about, first of all, how you started.
So I happened to graduate from college in 1992, and that happened to be the same year the Soviet Union broke up, just coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and I'd seen a little bit of Soviet era art, and like most anybody with a love of art, was pretty overwhelmed. If you had any kind of historical interest and art interest, this was like the best of both worlds. So we actually wanted to do something in the art business. We lost our shirt, and my parents, and still aren't, nobody in my family was ever wealthy. So this was always a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
We printed a couple of Western prints, and I'm going to lithographs at the end of the lithograph craze. I'm going to spare the artists, both of them deceased now, but they were complete failures. And we started seeing a little bit of the Soviet art trickling in, and we kind of made a decision, mostly
Wait a
my
minute. What do you
dad,
mean by
honestly,
that trickling in through you or just in
through
other galleries?
a lot other galleries.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just most people will remember, to be fair to them, the old Overland Gallery that was here for
I
years.
do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were the first, definitely in Arizona, maybe the US, to start carrying some art from the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm.
supplied at the time through two people I now know in London that were the first. And it was incredible. Ray Johnson of Overland had incredible taste too, so he was very astute and went and picked the most impressionistic, thick painted paintings that he knew Americans would like by good artists.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, to really put it simply, my dad and I were trying to figure out how to do that too, because we loved it. And we ended up meeting a Russian couple moving from Kiev. They had read a foreword in a book about some Russian art that an American lawyer who lived in Moscow for a year from Arizona had him write in the book of a collection he bought. They found that, they came here, and my old friend Jim Clark, who is one of the early art dealers that put this entire district on the map.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was, I think he discovered guys like Kent Wallace, stuff like that early on. I said, look, I'm too old, but maybe this father and son I know are looking into it. So they contacted us. My dad, because of his job, was able to call up the I think he got the president of, at the time, Valley National Bank, caught him in the shower, and he gave us a $20,000 loan, and we bought some ski bags rolled up with about 80 paintings. And
What?
yeah, and man, it was a crash course. I mean, I didn't know any Russian. We didn't know any of these artists.
Did you have a
I think
place? Did you even have a space at this point?
no, no.
You had nothing. You went into debt 20 grand
Yeah,
and you had
yeah.
no way of knowing how to sell them, no clientele.
None, none.
What about your
Now my
background?
dad's background, was in economic development, where he even did it for the state for a while. So he was used to rubbing elbows with some people who could afford art, frankly.
Okay.
And that ended up helping, because we ended up having private showings at their house, and we had some pretty heavy hitters that came through. And then we became friends with Mort Fleischer, who had the old Fleischer Museum here in Arizona. And he, because of his business, he would bring in heavy hitters and then come to our house with them, and we'd have wine, and we'd sell 3 or 4 paintings
Out of your house.
out of my parents' townhome. Yeah, not even house, townhome.
Is this in
So we
Scottsdale at the time?
yeah, yeah. We had
What?
we had we had people worth $250 million walking through my parents' guest bathroom saying, "I like that painting."
What?
It
So,
was kind of
okay,
wild,
we got
man.
to back up a little bit. So you got
And
about
I was
80
making
paintings
nothing. I was making nothing, but
before you
I
sold the
wasn't
paintings.
married. Yeah, I mean, everything we did, that took a pittance, but that was fun.
So you bought about 80 paintings for 20 grand? Is that just
At the time, it was about 25 grand, which seemed like a lot of money.
so you're like
So
300 bucks a painting on average?
yeah, but you got to understand, I hear this a lot even over the years, like, well, they didn't get paid enough, and you got to
Well, it was 30
understand
years
two
ago.
things. Yeah, and the dollar after the fall of the Soviet Union, I mean, like $300 probably at times was the same purchasing power as thousands now.
Right.
Okay. Nobody let you buy one painting. That was the other thing. So I remember end up, once a year, this guy'd come in and we'd have to drop 80 grand. He wouldn't sell 3 paintings and let me buy cherry pick them. So it was never inexpensive in the total, if that makes sense. It was always a risk for us. And then,
Well,
of
yeah,
course,
you're the
they
ones
weren't
in debt
stretched.
too.
Yeah, they weren't stretched, restored, framed, or anything. And back then, we had handmade frames made that took 8 weeks, and were never inexpensive, even on a wholesale level.
Mm-hmm.
So long story short, we did that. We ended up doing that part time because we weren't making a great living. I went into healthcare sales. I used to shave and wear a tie. Couldn't stand it for like 5 years. And my dad's other career was coming to an end. And
Mm-hmm.
1997, I went full time into it, even working out of my parents' house for a few years. And then we opened our first gallery in 2002, and it was called Gallery Russia, which it was called all the way until 2016. Um, and then for various reasons, we changed it to Paul Scott Gallery to match another gallery we had for a few years before we closed it. And now we carry what you see. We carry Ukrainian, Russian, but we also have a ton of American, European.
Mm-hmm.
Easily half of the artists on the wall are no longer from the former Soviet Union, but it's still a love of mine. I have a few private clients and have sold some pretty nice Soviet era paintings. You'd probably recognize one of them as the Milkmaids, just in the
Wow.
last couple of months out of private collections. So that helps us as a business standpoint, but also something I still love and like a lot. So
So are you an artist yourself?
um, I've painted
Mm-hmm.
and I have sold maybe 10 paintings. I've only my friend Julie Hutchison, who's a very good artist from the Telluride area and our graphic designer, she stuck some of my paintings a couple of years ago in the proof for my catalog, gallery catalog, and she really kind of twisted my arms, like, "No, you're leaving them in." So I've been in the gallery ever since. I don't get to paint a lot. I certainly am not as talented or trained as you guys, but I do have, I think, at least a reasonably unique look, and I've
Hmm.
managed to sell a few.
Well, the reason I ask is because I'm interested in how you two, well, you coming out of college, your dad's got a good career.
Yeah,
What is it about art that drew you in? What was it that was so interesting? I mean, a lot of people in the 90s and even today don't even think about art. It's not part of their
yeah.
world.
I've got to give all the credit to my dad. My dad grew up both my parents been married since they were teenagers, and both are from a little town in East Texas. Some very famous people are from that town, but if you just looked at it at a brief look, it's not real impressive. 20,000 people, long drawn out accents, which both of my parents still have.
Mm-hmm.
His dad was a door to door insurance salesman. His mom worked at the cosmetic counter part time at Sears and had no money. But for some reason, he had a calling early and he managed to raise a little money and took some painting lessons when he was like 11. Only time he ever did it. So something planted in his brain as a kid, no museums or anything in the town, but he somehow had an affinity towards art. Jump forward, moving all over the country with his job, running different economic development and tourism departments for different states. We finally got here. I was a sophomore in college in California when they moved here, but he started visiting the galleries here in Main Street, like any art lover, and that appreciation grew. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's where he got exposed to the Soviet art first. Um, and it timed up, like I said, right when I was graduating and wanted to come home for a while. And we are like, dude, let's try it. I mean, let's try something. So
Mm.
uh, I think we both have a reasonably good assessment of what's good art and what's not. But to be real frank, hanging out with thousands of paintings from the Soviet Union has os- just been amazing osmosis because these guys knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the education may have been quiet, but it was long and consistent, and it helps evaluating art and artists and things. And we miss, and sometimes we take chances, but I think that general eye is there and pretty sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And I still love it. I mean, I've been blessed to be married to a nurse for 31 years. So when times were tough, we always had, steady income, and my kids and I had health insurance. And I don't think I could have done it without her. Kind of a sub story of American entrepreneurism now that you need somebody who has a real job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No kidding. So, how did you? Well, first of all, I'm curious how long it took you to pay back that 20 grand. Do you remember?
uh, honestly, that first one was kind of tough because we ended up renting for next to nothing a warehouse, which is now part of the Scottsdale Police Department behind the giant spring training stadium.
Mm-hmm.
We put our pool table in the middle, and it looked really sexy. But I think we had like four people that visited in the first month or two, and we ran a little ad in the Scottsdale or the Arizona Republic, and we ended up selling like 10 paintings. So I think we broke even in a couple of months. But ultimately, note before I mentioned that he kept his job, and I got another, I got a real job. So we
Mm-hmm.
did it part time, and through his job, he moved his last job. He worked for a company here that was a luxury golf course developer as a president for a couple of years. And he and my mother moved to Scotland and opened Loch Lomond Golf Course for this company.
Wow.
And it was a private club. So, my dad was getting to play golf with, everybody from, well, household names in the business world. And
Wow.
my mother never knew and never understood how unusual it was. She got to play golf with the Supreme Court justice, but she did.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, our first big client was a lovely gentleman named Bud Pearson from Lake Okoboji, Iowa. There's the Okoboji Art Center still there. It's a beautiful lake community, one of the only deep glacier lakes in North America. And he made his simple man, but made his fortune in meat packing, and
Hmm.
ended up buying a lot of paintings off of our floor. And that kind of really got it going to where all of a sudden, we were looking in the account and we are like, wow, there may be something here.
Hmm.
And that gave us some, confidence then for me to quit my really not very fun job of renting medical equipment to go a little full blown into it wholesale for a few years, and then the retail gallery in 2002.
2002. That's when you opened Gallery Russia?
Yeah,
That's right when I started my career
well,
in
there you go.
2002. So you opened Gallery Russia in the 2002 recession.
Yeah, and
What the?
man, we hired
Was that
we
intentional
hired
or just coincidence?
yeah, we didn't know any better. I mean, we're just like we were in the Scottsdale. All right, we were in Scottsdale Air Park for 3 years by appointment,
Yeah.
but we're like, we got to be retail. And at that time, you couldn't find a space on this street at all.
Yeah,
And
I've never
there
seen
is,
anything vacant there.
yeah, but at that time, it was really true. And
Hmm.
we had started selling paintings. God rest her soul. A lady named Ann Gale. She was the founder of Wiseman and Gale. If you still come here, it's one of the big design firms in the Southwest. And she was old school designer. People would give her $250,000 to redo their house, and she's like, "You put that painting there," and they didn't have a choice. And she liked our art.
Wow.
But she called us one day and said, "Hey, this little children's clothing shop at the end of Main Street's closing. I just heard. Do you guys want me to have you get the number?" So we called the owner and we had it set up before they even left, or before they left.
That's the place
Not
you're in
not
now?
the best. No, no, this was at the far end at the red light, which really has no foot traffic, but it was pretty incredible on the corner. And because of our niche when we opened of Soviet art, I mean, luckily we were a bit of a destination site. I don't think we would have survived those early years with just normal art without a story behind it.
Wait,
Because
just to be clear, when you say the far end, are you talking about
yeah,
further away from North Scottsdale Road? Like the
uh,
other direction?
Main Street. So we're right at the roundabout, right?
Yeah, you're at the
Midway.
roundabout. So the past the roundabout, is that where you were?
Yeah, go west until you
Okay.
hit the next red light, and we were the last store on the right,
Oh yeah,
which is
no
a
one
real
goes up
estate
there. I don't think I
office.
ever walk up there.
No, no one did. And
Huh.
and at the time, one of the hottest bars used to be Mabel Murphy's, which was a Green Bay Packer bar that stuck out in the sidewalk, and you couldn't see past it anyway. So
Hmm.
no one ever. It was just word of mouth, and occasionally a crazy person that thought they should walk the whole street.
Huh. So when did you come back to where you are now?
We were there like, God, I think we were there like 7 or 8 years. Yeah, and
Really?
then the recession was starting to happen a little, and this current gallery opened up for the first time since the '60s,
Really?
and we heard about it first and took it pretty quickly. And what was more amazing is at the time the market wasn't strong enough for people with the current lease to charge you a fee. It wasn't uncommon right before that. If you wanted to take over a lease, you could, but you also had to give them 50 grand, something
Oof.
like that in cash, or they'd give it to somebody else.
But
And then the recession changed a lot of things. And ever since, things pop up in the street. Now we have ice cream stores and hair salons and escape the rooms, but
hmm.
still pretty decent concentration of galleries.
Yeah, I love Scottsdale. I love all the galleries there. And you guys have a prime location
For a
now.
little while. Yeah, it's going to get redeveloped. That's why we have 3 locations now.
Wait. That whole gallery street's going to get redeveloped?
No, our current main gallery I'm sitting in right now.
Oh, just that
Uh,
gallery. Okay.
yeah, the owner of the building is going to tear it all down and make a high-end restaurant.
Oh,
That's the way it
shoot.
goes.
Where are
So
you
that's
going to
why we
be?
got 2 places across the street. We hedged against losing this gallery eventually.
You're right across the street?
Yeah, we've got that space, and we diagonally across the roundabout have a little bigger space.
I had
But
no idea.
But see, it works so fast. The bigger space, we have for 3 years, but the owner just put that building up for sale. So, if a developer wants to come in and drop 6 million, they probably tear it down.
Jeez, well, are you okay in one of the spaces at least? Are you pretty
Yeah,
secure?
I think we are for the long term. And I know one gallery that needs new space in the street right now and can't find it. So this redevelopment's going to come crashing down pretty fast because we're in a very hot redevelopment area.
Yeah, don't. It would be a mistake if they changed that to all restaurants and no galleries.
This the city, the city just has no zoning protection for it. We're not like Carmel or La Jolla or something.
Oh,
There's
that would
nothing
be
to prevent.
sad.
Yeah, it's a little weird,
Dang, it is weird. Yeah, you would think the city would protect that little area. Dang, I'm
but
sad and I don't even live there. Well, hopefully it'll not turn into just a street full of restaurants.
yeah, I hope so. That we'll survive. We've we've always been a little bit of risk takers, so who knows? We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So that brings up a good question, I think, is how do I put this? So
Go for it.
if I wanted to open up a gallery, I mean, well, first of all, let me put it this way. You were definitely the risk taker. And so anyone who, in my opinion, was critical of you when you went to Russia and bought all those paintings, that's a
Yeah, of
ridiculous criticism because you gave them cash and they
course.
they got to choose. If they didn't want to sell them to you for $300 or whatever it was, they didn't have to,
Yeah.
right?
Look, money is spent with real life needs, and
Right.
most people complain, but don't do anything about it. So I feel very confident with it. What we did.
No, of course. And but the thing is, yeah, they can turn it away, right? And that's
And by the way, that's completely disappeared now. I still have to buy a lot of art from over there, but there's no magical markup beyond a normal American artist just consigning something to us. The magic numbers of this crazy profit don't exist anymore if you're dealing with a good artist.
wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, so you buy 1992, let's say you averaged out of 80 paintings, a really nice big painting for 300. Obviously, you were going to sell it more than $600.
Right.
But I still have to buy paintings from artists nowadays, and if I say I drop $2,000, it goes on the wall at 4,000.
Mm.
Just like he was consigning it. There's no magical markup or benefit from buying art, except it's the only way to get some of these artists. Because if you don't buy it,
Oh,
someone else
I
in the
see what
world
you're
will buy
saying.
it.
So what you're saying is back in the day, if you were the one brave enough to put up the cash, you could actually in the end make a pretty nice profit.
Of course,
Right.
yeah,
And
that was the
now it's
whole. Yeah,
consignment or buying up front, the same 50-50 split regardless.
it feels that way. Few exceptions, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that was my point in that, most galleries only do consignment.
Right.
And you went out there, you went out and took a loan. You went to Russia and bought 80 paintings with cash that you
Yeah,
didn't even, that wasn't even yours, and had to take the big risk, right? To start this
well, I
gallery.
appreciate that. I appreciate that view, Jeff. And I guess from a business standpoint, absolutely. But again, to be fair, my dad's always been a bit of a risk taker. So it was
Yeah.
really him. I was just a smart kid at the time, kind of along for the ride. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we made decisions together from the very beginning and still to this day do.
So how does it work now? Is it mostly consignment now?
Um, if my artists from not from the former Soviet Union, yeah, 100%, just like any gallery you would think of.
Mm-hmm.
The other artists, I will give them a choice, but I'd say 99% of them just want you to buy them. And then I say no sometimes and move on. And then other times, like, there's something here. Like I just added a guy from who lives 2 days ago from Baku, Azerbaijan,
Mm-hmm.
but he went to the academy in St. Petersburg, the famous one where Nikolai Fechin went. And,
Mm-hmm.
and he's more contemporary, but I see something in him. And I bought 5 paintings and thought they were fairly priced for the fact that I may have to pay tariffs. I got to frame them. I got to stretch them. We'll see how it goes. But
How
yeah,
have tariffs
ultimately, I'd probably make as much money if I just found another artist in America and consigned them. But
but you're
but that's
passionate about the
not the
Russians?
full. Yeah, it's not the full flavor of our gallery, right?
Right, right. I wasn't expecting to bring this up, but I'm curious.
Sure.
How have tariffs affected your business? Has it been an issue?
Just recently, nobody knows for sure if art's going to pass through or not. I just got some ceramic pieces from a Ukrainian artist in Finland. And
Mm-hmm.
since he's in Finland, I think, I think this is the business side, right?
Mm-hmm.
I buy 5 pieces, 3 show up shattered, so they're out of the picture now.
Wait,
So
this
now all the
actually
cost,
happened, or are you predicting it?
yeah, just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, geez.
So then that leaves two ceramic plates. And now I'm like, you got to assign all the cost to these 2 pieces, right? And then I think on these 2 plates that each one cost me like 600 euros each or something. I had to, then there was 470 euros of shipping.
Oh, dude. On each
And
or
then we,
total?
and then we got the bill for 15% tariff. So I don't even, I'll probably take these plates home. I don't even know what the hell I'd have to sell them for to make a profit. So we're doing it one little step at a time. I don't know yet with paintings. I don't think so. It also may be more country dependent. Like I don't know.
But so far, you're fine.
Actually, I do. I just
Okay.
got four rolled paintings from Ukraine, and there was no tariff attached to that. So it's probably more country oriented, not
Hmm.
not art
Hmm.
related.
Yeah, that's interesting. So
Yeah,
wait a minute. It's kind of random question, but
yeah, I love it. Go for it.
like, I mean, I've obviously shipped paintings to galleries, and well, maybe that's not so obvious, but I've shipped paintings to galleries. I've shipped paintings to shows, and I would think
Sure.
if I didn't, now artists are going to kill me right now, but I would think it would be a reasonable debate between the gallery and the artist if, like, how well was it packed and who's responsible? That's one
Yeah.
question. And then the other question is, you bought the paintings outright. Can't you insure it? Isn't it insured?
Yeah, but anybody that's dealt with shippers long enough knows that like 99% of the time they have 1,000 legalese things that
Uh,
will get them out of the majority of the responsibility. It's just that
Oh, that
simple. So
sucks.
yeah,
Yeah.
it has to do with percentages and purchase values and so much documentation and stuff. It really is something you're best left not to mess with. We very minimally insure anything. Now, some of it can be covered from our overall business policies.
Mm.
That's probably something more effective than buying insurance on a shipment. Uh, no, I did ship for a client 2 original, very expensive Ilya Repin paintings to an auction house in London a few years ago. But thank God they wanted them so bad they paid the insurance because there's about $6,000 or $7,000 of insurance on 2 paintings for those. But that's not something we come up across much.
Mm.
If you ship me paintings, generally a gallery is going to think any damage you're responsible for. Just like if I ship paintings back to you that don't sell or that you bought and they're damaged, that's responsibility of mine.
That's kind of what
But
I thought.
we,
So why? So the
yeah,
artist didn't have to pay you back, or?
well, I didn't have to pay for those 3 pieces, but I still, to be nice, paid for the full shipping and
Oh,
everything.
okay.
It's
Okay. Well, I'm
just,
glad to hear that because,
yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean,
yeah,
these are long-term relationships, and it took me a while to figure out sometimes it's okay to take a little nick for the overall relationship health because
yeah,
it always works out in the end.
yeah, yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
But
I got to tell you a story. I don't know if I've
yeah,
told this on the
please.
podcast, but you might find this interesting. Talking about taking a little nick. I wonder what you think about this.
Uh-huh.
And I still think I did the right thing, but it'd be interesting. I've never talked to a dealer about this. So I had a
Okay.
situation once many years ago when I was with a gallery. This guy was great. He's a lot like you guys, just really down to earth, really cool guy. Loved working with him. His name's Clayton Williams. He's since passed, but
Right.
um, he called me up one day and he said, "Hey Jeff, I got this client here that wants one of your contemporary pieces. I used to do these like figures with sunglasses against abstract
Yeah.
backgrounds and stuff. But then I was also doing biblical work, and I said, "Well, I've only got this one. I don't have any contemporary pieces except this one on the easel, which is small,
Uh-huh.
but I've got this huge biblical painting, that I'm working on." And he goes, "No, I don't think this guy's into that sort of thing." And I said, well, have you asked him? He goes, no, I just know he's not into it. So he says, I'll send him to your studio. So he sends him to my studio. I sell him the one on the easel, which he expected would
Right.
happen. But then I went to his house to deliver it. And by the time I left his house, I'd sold him 90,000. Oh, for the one on the easel was only $4,000. But by the time I
Yeah.
left his house, I sold him $90,000 worth of religious painting.
That's awesome.
But because it was his client, even though my gallery told me he didn't want religious paintings, I still sent him a check for $45,000 because it was his client.
Yeah,
And
that knowing you, that doesn't surprise me. And I do think it was the right thing.
yeah,
But
it is the right thing because he and I, well, for one, we were friends. Second, it's like you said about taking the hit on the shipping. Like you don't want to burn those bridges, man. It's like you got to
no,
trust each other.
well, some of that stuff, thank God as I'm getting older now that I'm just starting to mature finally.
I
That you know
know,
what,
same here.
it ain't a big deal. Just move on, right?
Yeah, I know.
Put a
It,
little
it
good
felt
karma
like
into the
it felt
world.
like it writing that check. I'm like 45,000. The client actually said, "Dude, don't even tell him." He said I wasn't going to buy it. He doesn't have to know about it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I got to tell him. I can't do it. You
Well,
know.
one, I commend you for being ethical, but it doesn't surprise me in the
Oh, I
least.
appreciate you, man.
From a gallery perspective, though, this may surprise you. If any gallery owner's honest, they're gonna get the temptation. They really are. I mean, that's just because anybody can self-justify, like, well, wait a second, the dealer wasn't here. It wasn't even a guaranteed thing he was coming.
Right. And you said
Dealer
he didn't
didn't even
like
think he
it.
wanted any of
Yeah.
this. So I did all the work. I
Yeah.
get it. We all get it.
Yeah.
But you boil it down to the simplest business fact is that dude didn't know about you.
Exactly.
And you can't escape the most basic boiled down foundational logic, and that's why a gallery is here. That's why artists put their works in galleries, not to privately prosecute like relevance of what they did. If someone contacts you and they only know you because of us,
You got to
yeah,
pay him. Yeah, you
of
got to pay
course.
him. This episode is brought to you in part by Rosemary Brushes. If you're one of my listeners who's a professional artist, you're already using Rosemary Brushes. But for the rest of you, come on. Take your work a little more seriously. Stop buying the other brands. It's just not worth it. Every now and then you may get lucky and buy a good brush from another brand, but use the brand that professionals like myself are using. Go to rosemaryandco.com, link in the description or the show notes, and get yourself some quality brushes before your next painting.
And most of my artists throughout 30 years have done that. There's been a few that I've dropped, frankly, that just were really good at self-justifying why that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like not notifying me of, a client contacting them for a commission, even though we'd sold them 5 paintings. And a whole other story, not to make it long, that's why we don't advertise a lot anymore. Because 90% of people are going to go straight to the artist's website.
Ugh.
And some of those real acute buyers know not to mention the gallery.
Yeah.
And if some artists really need money, right? Like you got the private school payment coming up or something, they don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sidesteps us, you know.
Oh,
It's
that
it's
would
a
be
really
frustrating.
tough balancing act, but all those artists out there, I do understand your perspective, I promise. But just work with the galleries, and you may be surprised at how pleasant it can be, and everybody stays happy for a longer term relationship.
Well, and the other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I were in my dealer's shoes when I did that, and this isn't why I did it, it wouldn't have been worth 45 just for this. My integrity was worth 45, not this, but it is something that crosses my mind. I would think if that a dealer that had someone write them a check for that much money, considering the situation, that next time a collector walks in, that dealer is going to remember that, right? And
Of
be like,
course.
this guy, I can trust this guy. I can trust this artist. I'm going to work hard for this artist. I mean, you can't count on that, obviously, but you would think anyone with a soul would be like, yeah, I'm going to work for this guy, you know?
I can't imagine many situations that's not the case.
Yeah.
I don't. Let's just make a fictitious artist that's a total jackass.
Yeah.
but he's so easy to sell that maybe some dealers are willing to look the other way. But you know that you know that's like there's a couple of Academy Award winning actors, and everybody else has to work for a living. And that's so yeah. It's real simple. The easier you are to work with, the more I want to promote you. The
Yeah.
more money you get out of my promotional budget, maybe you get a show. That's not favoritism. That's just common sense,
Yeah. I'm
right?
s- I'm sorry, but favoritism is okay in my mind. If you earned it, for crying out loud, if you earned it by being a good person,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
love. Look, I love the concept. I get a little opinionated. I understand how long it takes to paint. Okay,
Yeah.
I have no attention to be like an easel painter, like someone like you who's much more talented, but also is very meticulous. I can't do that. ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But I've had a few artists in the past, like complain, like, well, why don't you give them a 10% discount? That took me forever. And I have to tell them, I said, not one potential buyer gives a damn how long it took you. They just don't. It's either worth that amount or not. And the only suggestion I can give you is speed up. And
Yeah.
I really stick by that because what artists don't really think about, they all agree when you mention it, is I could really break down all of the money every day that's churning out of my checkbook just to put one of your 48 by 60s on that wall space in my gallery.
Right.
We're spending money daily to hang your art here. And you can look at it that way. I can literally figure up every square inch of wall space that we could use in my gallery, divide that into my monthly operating expenses, and I could tell you probably every square inch of your painting how much it cost me just to hang it, if you wanted to look at it that way.
Wow.
So both sides have a point, but ultimately they're completely irrelevant in the gray area. It's whether or not anybody wants to buy your painting and in a timely fashion. And if not, then there's a problem. And
Hmm.
every you could go a gallery the next state over and sell every painting you do. I mean, we can talk about that too. I mean, regional markets in US are so distinctly different that
Oh, it's
sometimes
so bizarre.
you
Yeah.
could be in three galleries as an artist and all three are the wrong galleries and you feel like a failure, but you could be in three other galleries and not having a single painting, available.
Oh, I know.
It's
It's crazy. I
a
know.
tricky mindset.
I have no great artist that, of all places, found her gallery in North Carolina. Not New
Yeah,
York, not LA, not Scottsdale, like North Carolina,
I
and they
know.
just move her work. And
What
I
what
just
city do you know?
I
Asheville or
don't
Charlotte?
I don't know. And honestly,
I've
it
been
might be
there.
South Carolina for all I know. I know it's one of the. I'm pretty sure it's north, but yeah,
Well,
I
that's
have
a
no
very
idea.
healthy
But
park.
who'd think of that? Like everyone's going to the main cities, the major art cities, and but every now and then you find your place somewhere obscure.
That's something that's been I've been really studying lately is this concept of these smaller town markets. And look, there's no doubt we get a steady supply of people of wealth from all over the world here in Scottsdale because of the
Mm-hmm.
concentration of galleries. But common sense also says, I'm against 10, 15 galleries competition wise, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I can't name any, but I'm aware of galleries in smaller towns surrounding decent unserved markets that seem to sell almost every damn painting they have in a show, and they're at normal prices.
Hmm.
There's something really intriguing after 33 years to me about smaller markets for galleries that you can dominate.
And, with
Doesn't mean I
social
want to
media and
move
stuff
to
now
it.
too.
Yeah, I just try to get in the mind. Let's say you're a young doctor and your wife or whatever, and you live in a on the outskirts. I don't know, like let's pick Austin because my sister lives there.
Okay.
Austin's a fast growing city, not really many galleries, but you could be 30 miles out and there's nothing to do. So those galleries have one show and exhibit, and it's like really something cool to do. That's why they get 200 people that go to that
Hmm.
show. You have a gallery here in Scottsdale, unless you're having a special like Western thing that's so hot right now. I can sell every painting in a show, but I might have five people come to the exhibit because they're so common here.
Oh, no kidding. I wouldn't even have
Yeah, and
thought about that.
And only a smaller market that's underserved with not 12 galleries can get that kind of what we all picture as the cliche, like you have a show and everybody shows up. That's not reality for big markets anymore, with few exceptions. And that just continue like I can't tell you how many clients we've had over the last few years from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, I've lived in Oklahoma as a kid, so I know Tulsa has a very small, wealthy group there.
Hmm.
But why are we getting so many Tulsa buyers?
Hmm.
And then you look, all right, there's like one pretty good gallery in Tulsa. So, but guess what? They probably get pretty nice attendance at their shows because if you like art, that's it.
Hmm. Have you considered getting sort of a satellite gallery out in the middle of nowhere?
We had one about 10 years ago. For 3 years. We had one in Bend, Oregon, right next to Jim at Mockingbird Gallery, who does super well. And it was right at the end of the recession, though, and we didn't fall in love with it. And so after 3 years, we just packed up. But it's
Okay.
a booming market again. And to be fair, I think he's the only one in town, so he does really well.
Hmm. Yeah, I never would have thought that. Okay, I got to
Yeah,
back up because there was a question I didn't get to
sure.
ask you. So it's called the Undraped Artist because my goal is to get people to really be honest and open up.
Yeah,
But technically you're a dealer, so I'm going to give you an out if you don't want to talk about this because I understand you might be hesitant because you don't want people to knock on your door and be like, "Well, you said on the podcast whatever." Right?
yeah,
But I have to ask you this. So take an art, let's say fortunately I'm good right now, but I'll tell you what, if I ever needed a gallery, you'd be one of the first places I'd go, um but let's say a guy like me shows up and I'm
uh-huh,
doing 9 foot by 12 foot murals that take me a year to do.
yeah.
And then I'm selling them for hundreds of thousands. Would a gallery like yourself negotiate a percentage in that situation? And before you answer it, let me explain why I think that might be a reasonable request. Because if in that year I were to do 25 paintings,
Right.
right? Um, with 25 paintings, you're doing a lot of work for selling each painting, 25 times the work, right?
Yep.
Where with one painting, and then maybe it sums up to, let's just say $250,000 between the 25 paintings. But then with one painting, one sale, like, I guess what I'm asking is, how do galleries feel about this? Is it negotiating with artists? Well, I guess you can't speak for other galleries, but is it just a hard line 50-50, or are there situations like, I just gave one example, mine. I'm not looking for a gallery, so I'm not asking literally just one example, but
Sure.
like, are there situations where there is a reasonable expectation to negotiate from either side?
I think the easy answer is, of course,
Really?
and yeah, I think you'll if a gallery owner and maybe not very smart about it, just has some line in the sand for any reason drawn that it's 50-50, they'll tell you they're not interested and you move on. I have taken in the past, I don't have any right now, but I've taken a few artists that want an extra 10%. And then at the same time, I've turned down some artists that wanted an extra 10%.
Mm.
So, so the first just thing from my perspective is common sense. I have to, what do I think you sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know one of the big galleries on the street that had one of the old timers that was selling in the six figures, and I think they took like 10 or 15%.
Right.
Now, you can say his decades of success warranted that, but if he'd walked in my gallery at 70 years old, brand new, I would say, okay, 15%, because I knew I'd sell every painting for 100,000, right?
Right. Right.
So the Jeff Hein mural painter, I think you have every right to sit there and say, of course, that makes a lot of sense. So I would want to hear about it. You're talking about something that might take a year, very intricate work. Yeah, I mean, in that case, that's not part of your normal process of painting. It doesn't sound like, right?
Right.
Not like you got five paintings lined up in your studio, and so yeah, I'd be honored to be able to sell something or help you sell. In that case, really, you're selling it, I think, but maybe the gallery legitimizes it a little more or
Right.
handles So maybe that's worth 15, 20%. I don't think that's a problem.
Well,
Gallery look at that like bonus.
no, I'm glad I asked that then. That's nice of you to be so transparent about it because I
Yeah.
always tell my students, don't be afraid of the gallery. Politely say, is there room to negotiate? If they say no, they say no, and then politely, you know, accept or decline their offer. It's but I think a lot of artists are really intimidated by galleries and they go in, they're like,
Yeah.
no, this is just how it is. And they're like, I can't ask questions.
Well, any look, I do a lot of sports analogies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Baseball for some reason. I liked baseball. If you're a manager or a general manager of a baseball team, you can't look at every potential baseball player with the same qualifications. You know there's guys you really want that are never going to hit 300, but there's other reasons they're vital for your team. So I kind of would look at artists a little bit of the same way. Like I just very softly added two local artists, and they're not really even ready, but I can see potential in them. One of them just yesterday, and I can see where he's headed, and
Mm-hmm.
easy to work with, and so yeah, there should be a sliding scale of artist evaluation. But to be fair, some galleries only want to take highly established artists, and if they have set and concrete rules, they can find plenty that'll fit them. And like you said, just move on.
Mm-hmm.
There's some galleries and markets where the rents are so high they can't. I remember an old, I think it was William Cargis. I don't even think they're a gallery anymore. They were a high-end gallery in California years ago that carried California Impressionism, and I think they told us 20 years ago that if you sell for under $10,000, they couldn't even afford to put you on the wall. So
Mm.
there's all types of gallery perspectives and things that are required. But anytime a gallery can make money in a good relationship and it's something that's a viable product, I think that it's negotiable. But ultimately, it comes down to the very honest and sometimes cruel measuring stick of A, is your work good enough? And most isn't. And B, you know, will it sell, or is it just going to be something that sits in the wall, everybody looks at like a museum piece, but no one wants to buy?
Hmm. You just said most isn't, which makes
Yeah,
me want to ask you this question. How often do
yeah,
you get artists soliciting you to show their work in a given week, given month?
maybe not as much as you think, but because of our reputation internationally, I probably get 5 to 10 emails from people from overseas a month.
Oh, that's a
And
lot less than I expected.
yeah, maybe 5 to 10, five local, American. I think some of it artists are just honest and see the style and flavor of a gallery, right? And
Right.
some are honest and say, look, I love them, but I don't fit in there. But not all of them. Quality wise, quality is in the eye of the beholder to some extent. But the more you've been in art, you and I most artists
Mm-hmm.
can look at a painting and tell you whether it's good. Don't get me started on whether it's just technically good but has no pulse behind it,
Right.
right? But only
Yeah.
each gallery has to pick their own art, and to be real frank, though, I think a lot of gallery owners pick bad art. So who the hell knows?
Okay, I got to get you started on that though.
Yeah, that's where I gotta be careful.
No, no, no. I mean, because I think this is important. I've got students. A lot of people listening are students or have students.
Right.
I had a gallery tell me it was the gallery that I was in before the recession. They've since closed shop, which is part of the reason I remained homeless. But they they told me if they get another atelier artist, I'm not expecting you to badmouth anyone. I have a question. I'm gonna. But if they get another atelier artist doing a man holding a stick or portrait of the profile of a woman or something into their gallery, they're gonna kick them out the back door.
Note my expression of exasperation, but go ahead. Yeah.
I think you just answered the question. So, what are
What?
your thoughts on that? What advice would you give to people who are studying? Because academic training, there's no shortage of it anymore. It's not.
No.
It's not the '90s. It's not the '80s anymore. What advice would you give these highly trained atelier
Yeah.
artists before approaching a gallery?
Well, okay. So I a little for the artist's sake, they have a little unfortunate thing for me in that I've just dealt with the Russian and Ukrainian artists for so long. You know,
Hmm.
they only train the most God gifted artists in the best academies. So if you take 25 students, right, especially during Soviet times, and they were all God gifted elite,
Hmm.
you could take for granted that you could teach them every technical aspect.
Right.
So the beauty was at the same time, this previous generation of gifted teachers who are artists also would start cultivating how they were thinking creatively, not just technically.
Mm.
You know, I had an artist years ago in here doing a show, not to mention the artist, doing a demo during the show, graduate of the Florence Academy,
Hmm.
and three middle-aged women who were learning how to paint came up and said, "Hey, we have an opportunity to take a what was it a month long summer class at the Florence Academy, or 2 weeks with so and so plein air painting in Provence.
Hmm.
And do you have any suggestions?" And I'll never forget this. The artist looked right at him without even any hesitation, said, "Do you want to paint exactly like me?" And every person that came out of the Florence Academy, they're like, "No." I said, "Go take the Provence thing."
Mm.
What we're really good at, and maybe this is true in
Uh-oh.
or whatever, Pennsylvania. I don't know enough. San Francisco. We seem to be really good. Uh,
Hold on, you froze for a sec.
yeah,
Yeah, back up to what we're really good at. He just finished telling the ladies go study with the landscape painter, and then you said,
yeah. We just seem to be really good at getting bogged down. And here we go again.
"I hear you. Go ahead."
We seem to be really good at getting bogged down on technical teaching,
Right.
and I just wonder if anybody in those ateliers that have mastered to some extent that style, if that's just what they're teaching and no one's really thinking about who cares. Are you going to be creative at all? And I, as a reasonably creative person and inherited that from my dad, I can't imagine, but I think maybe some people need to be reminded, like maybe take a class on how to be creative.
You know what I would say to
Because,
that? I agree with
yeah.
you. I agree with you to a point. I would only come at it from a slightly different angle, and I'd like your thoughts on this.
Hmm.
My philosophy is everyone is born with a certain level of creativity. Obviously, some maybe genetically or me more predisposed to higher levels of creativity, but in general, we all have something, and I liken it to a signature. Like we all sign, we all write differently. You know, I get a letter, a card from my mother, and it's just like, there's her handwriting. You know, it's so clear. And I feel like the problem in a lot of these schools isn't that they're not teaching creativity. I don't think creativity can be taught. It's that they're stealing creativity and that
Mm,
they're teaching them formulas that require them to use the exact same handwriting as their professor. Instead of just teaching principles, they're saying, no, hold it like this, hold the paintbrush like this, make a mark like this. It's a step by step process, and you have to follow it exactly the way they tell you. And then, so you come in with mannerisms and
yeah.
tendencies, and you leave with your own mannerism and tendencies, I mean, you leave with theirs. And so the key is for these schools to not steal those mannerisms, to teach them principles without stealing their voice.
I, no, I've kind of said that facetiously. I look there. Again, I could teach a 10-year-old kid how to theoretically hit a baseball better, but I could probably tell within 20 seconds if it was going to matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one, that I like your perspective in that, and that's probably why you're respected as a teacher, because I suspect you get that through. Um, People to think outside of the box a little or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's just we can't keep. I think the real creative uniqueness is at a deficit right now, maybe in our country, and I don't
Mm.
know what it is, except there's so much emphasis on paid workshops and things that in short periods of time, what else are they going to teach, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you end up looking at an art magazine, and for decades you can look, and I don't even read them because I know who they took the most workshops with before I even read it, and it's like, what's the point? You look just like them.
Mm.
I remember a Russian friend of mine said, I remember God, I hadn't even thought about that years ago because I keep dealing with people coming out of that academy in St. Petersburg, and I see them all the time. You know, they have to do one master copy to graduate,
Mm-hmm.
and they go into the Academy Museum, and so many of them pick a fragment out of Nikolai Fechin's giant diploma work, which is Cabbage Pickers. It's a village scene with 30, 40 people in it. And you're like, they finish, you're like, my God, that looks like Nikolai Fechin.
Mm.
And I remember asking, why can't you get some of these guys to paint like Fechin? And his answer was real simple. He's like, why would they? And I'm like, well, we can sell everything. What do you mean? He's like, they don't see any reason to because you can't improve on it. It's as good as it gets for that style.
Mm.
So there's no impetus to try to learn how to paint like the master because he did it as better than anybody ever could. Now
Mm-hmm.
you take that perspective versus going to one of the academies. Look, and I get the intrinsic value of learning how to paint value. I do. I promise I get that. And good for you if that's really what you want to do. But at some point, if you're not getting out of those blinders,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to ever do anything but be a thumbnail on a gallery website that you can't tell the difference between six thumbnails on the site because the gallery owner likes all atelier artists, but you can't even tell the difference if you didn't read the name of under the thumbnail.
Yeah.
I don't get the point to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
No,
I'm a
I
little
I
harsh on
agree with you
that.
100%. I don't think that's that sentiment is widely known. I've heard it 1,000 times from dealers, from established artists,
Yeah.
and so on.
And look,
Yeah.
if you got to pay a mortgage and kids, I admire you for anything you sell. Okay, I do. But I see that in other genres of art in the U.S. You can go to some websites of well-known galleries, and there's like, maybe there's 15 thumbnails, and 12 of them look exactly the same because that's what's selling right now. I couldn't do that as a dealer. Maybe I'd be driving a nicer car, but
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
can't do
So
it.
now I have to
Right?
ask you. I have to ask you now. So, dude, what's selling in Scottsdale right now is cowboy art, Native
Well,
American
that
art. Like, and everyone's doing it.
well,
I mean, people who grew up in Brooklyn, New York are doing it. People, I mean, it's just wild. And they're all, they grew up wearing their pants around their knees and now they're wearing cowboy hats, you know?
yeah. Thank you, Yellowstone, but yeah,
It's like what why?
I
But it's
don't
so
know.
it's so prevalent now that white men are painting Native Americans, people who've never stepped a foot on a ranch are wearing cowboy boots and painting cowboys and Indians.
Yeah,
Like it's
it's a tough one.
it's very interesting.
So I preface that with my previous statement that look, if you're paying bills and putting kids through school, I get it. I admire you.
Yeah, I get it too. You got to pay the bills, but
Okay,
yeah.
I don't wish you any harm in that. But from a true art loving standpoint, my God, we're in the world's deepest mine looking for gold, but all we're pulling out is like iron, and everybody's okay with it. At some point, we need to make something like really beautiful and unique that puts a little cultural stamp in American art again. And we're in the golden handcuffs of commercial success.
Yeah, you
Um,
hit it on the
so,
head.
so you
Everyone's
pick a
chasing
previous,
success. Or
yeah, you
they're
pick a
trying to pay
previous
the
style.
bills. They're trying to pay the bills.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I get it,
Yeah.
but
But
I,
you're
I'm
not. You're in Scottsdale. You know that the gallery right down in the opposite corner can have
yeah.
auctions and sell paintings for hundreds of thousands that are like 24 inches if it's got a cowboy in it and you're still bringing in Russian art.
Okay, so you unwittingly perhaps mentioned what I believe is the key to success in the Western art market, and that's just auctions.
Yeah.
I remember 20 years ago, I was talking to, I don't know what I'm supposed to say or not, but I was talking to the longtime owner at the time, Trailside Galleries, and they were starting to lose some of their big artists to that other gallery that's still around.
Mm-hmm.
She said, Western art's dead.
Wait. When was this?
Probably 20 years ago,
Oh, so it's coming back, obviously. Yeah.
that it's dead. She said, I got mid-career artists that nobody wants. And then all of a sudden the auctions popped up. And all of a sudden you had these mid-career artists selling out shows because the clients buying them knew that they would be included in auctions from there on, and they could just bid the hell out of them. That's completely legal. I get it. It's happened to all art throughout time, but I do personally largely think that's the main reason, if not the only reason, that a lot of Western art's doing so well. I don't
Wait. Are
think,
you saying it's following the same pattern as blue chip art in a way, where they're
yeah,
artificially inflating it because they know it'll be back in the auction a year or two later, and
I hesitate calling it artificial because it's real.
yeah,
But
well, yeah, that's true, but
no, to
yeah,
be fair, I'm not going to name names, but I can name some amazing Western painters. I like a lot of Western art,
yeah.
so don't hate me for saying this. But if you there are people selling shows out. I don't know if they could sell a show out at most galleries in the U.S. But what happens is if you put 25 paintings, maybe they normally sell for 5 grand. You can put 10 grand on them, and you don't even have to tell your clients, just buy the show out. Because once you buy it out, that creates the demand, and then they're going to be in 3 or 4 pieces will be in the next auction. And then you're 75 years old, more money, and you know what to do is, so you bid them up to 20,000. And now every painting you bought at 10,000 is worth 20, and you get the horse trade 2 years later over a glass of wine. And when you put those at auction, how long that can last, I don't know. But I'm from the word of my mouth. 20 years ago, talked to one of the top Western dealers in the world, and they definitively said Western art's dead. And that was right before the auctions popped up.
That's wild.
Nobody wanted it.
That's wild.
A little bit, right?
So it really is like blue chip market. It's the same thing
Yeah,
as selling I don't know, a Jackson Pollock in New York for hundreds of millions of dollars.
of course.
Oh my,
Now, maybe the difference is you grew up on a horse farm and really like horses. I don't know,
yeah.
but but all this you mentioned authenticity, which is an interesting world considering the Western art world now, that some of the top sellers weren't even from here.
No.
So you got guys named Clyde and his buddy Buzz that live in Kerrville or something and go on a yearly horse trail ride with big belt buckles, wanting authenticity, and yet they're paying $100,000 from the most unauthentic stuff.
Yeah,
Just saying.
it's bizarre. It
And,
is
and it
bizarre.
really is odd coming from my background dealing with Soviet art, which was all propaganda supposedly. But I can show you paintings of collective farm workers from the 1950s, and you know what? They were real people on a real collective farm. So we may
Wow.
not like, I'm never a big fan of communism or Soviet Union, but I can tell you that steel worker, those collective, those milkmaids, they were real people. The artists went out in the country and painted. That was real life.
Wow.
That's the ultimate irony from my perspective.
Yeah. Wow, dude.
I don't know how many people have seen an Apache war party lately, but probably not many on horseback, right?
I think
And my
I love
look, I'm
I
going to get in a
love this.
lot of trouble.
No, I am too, dude. No, you're
We
not.
get a
I think
Western art
you're
magazine now. We just look through it and we take bets on how many paintings have Indian blankets in it. I
yeah.
think my record is one magazine had 30.
Yeah.
Someone holding or wearing the painted Indian blanket. I mean, it's that formulaic now.
Yeah.
I've been doing Jeff's online mentorship program for about a year now, and it is awesome. Everything is online, super streamlined. If you can be there, I mean, you have the ability to talk to him once a week and he can review your work and help you. If you can't be there, it's pre-recorded. You can go back and even re-watch things if you missed something during class or couldn't be there. So the online portion of it is almost better than real life because you can always go back to it, which is awesome. The demos are recorded. It's just like all available whenever you need it. And I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4, and my time is limited, and it's also very interrupted. And so to be able to go back has been clutch for me. And you get to work with Jeff HEIN, who's awesome. He's tough. The assignments are simple, but difficult, and they're difficult to make us all better. And he's able to give us these assignments, coach us through it, help us stay excited to progress. And so it's just been a great experience. I am so grateful that he has been willing to take time away from his own art to offer all of us to have it. So if you're thinking about doing it, it's amazing.
To learn more about how you could have me as a personal mentor, check out the link to HEINatelier.com in the show notes or video description.
But to be fair, most genres of art have a lot of formula in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not picking on them. God bless.
No. And like you said, I mean, I know some of these artists and they are just like, I'm not selling my paintings. Western art is hot right now. I've got to do something to feed the family. I get it. It's just a weird world where that's.
See, and you take, but the irony is you take some of those really talented artists. There's some names I'd love to say that I think are God gifted.
Yeah.
If they switch, they'd be better Western artists than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that authentic. I don't know. Better, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. But can they get plugged into that auction route and have some success? That who knows? It's like how many slots are left in the back of the computer for memory cards, or are they filled up? I don't know.
Well, this guy who grew up in a New York suburb is certainly never going to be doing it.
Yeah. There you go.
By
the way, you mentioned what's selling in Scottsdale. I will refute that a little. That is such a unique sphere within Scottsdale that you almost have to extract it and put it on the side. What generally is selling in Scottsdale is going to be larger, and I think I mentioned this to you in person, what I call hybrid pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They're a perfect blend between contemporary and traditional, not too far either way.
Yeah, but I think I said that one gallery. Every other gallery it is kind of leaning in that direction generally. But that one gallery in the corner, which I like the gallery, I don't think it matters if we mention it, Legacy Gallery. I don't think it matters. It's no.
Nice folks.
I freaking love that gallery. I go there every time. It's you, them, and oh shoot, now I'm forgetting the third one I always visit. What's that one down the street that's got the Daniel Greens and
more contemporary?
No, it's traditional / contemporary. I'll think of it.
That's all right.
Anyway,
Brennan.
Yes, Brennan Gallery.
Brennan, yeah.
They're a good gallery as well, I think.
They are.
Got good artists in there. But anyway, yeah, no knock on them. It's just that I'm just talking about that one gallery that has these incredible auctions that puts out these crazy prices or gets these crazy prices. Legacy is just turning over some major sales.
It's the magic bullet, and they're very good at it. And they're good people.
Yeah, they are.
The artists do well, but yeah, it's the auctions.
Yeah, man, I need to get in an auction. Freaking A.
My dad and I used to joke all the time. We'd have an incredible year for us, and then I remember saying things like, we could have bought a Howard Turpning painting for $150,000 and sold it at auction 3 years later, and probably made more money than selling 100 paintings. That allure is huge if that's one of your main objectives, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of people that A, like the art, but B, it's like, if I'm going to buy art, at least, quote, invest in it.
Okay, so I'm going to display my ignorance like I always do, but why can't anyone just hold an auction? Why can't you hold an auction for Russian artists? Why wouldn't it sell? I don't understand. Because if you're saying the auction is the generator of the excitement and then the cash flow, just why not just start an auction with any kind of art? Won't it do the same thing? That's a simple-minded question, I know, but
no, it's something that's perplexed me for years, why that doesn't seem to be the case. So intrinsically, you'd say, well, there must be that many people that like Western.
Yeah.
But then that doesn't really hold up. Now, to be fair, Russian art for about 2006 to 2012 was arguably the most profitable sector for both Christie's and Sotheby's, internationally speaking.
Yeah.
So it had its day, but no American knew it.
Oh.
Things I can name 20 artists you've probably never heard of, like Ilya Mashkov, that they put in the auction in London at 40,000 and it'd sell for $1.2 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But why Western art has staying power at this point in the auction, and you can't just do that for people painting Carmel, and I don't really know,
Hmm.
unless it's just such a unique buying group that it's very close, and the community is stronger. Russian art, I can't really guarantee supply, stuff like that. I can't control it like you can the Western art.
Do you
You
think
know,
it's
they've created their own atmosphere and they control it like in a dome. I can't keep my Russian artists. I have Russian artists I sell well that also sell in Dubai and places. I
hmm.
can't control all that.
Do you think it's possible? Well, I heard the story once, and I may have this all wrong, but you know, people will have to check my so-called facts, and if I'm wrong, forgive me. But my understanding is that Jeff Koons was working in a museum bookstore, and he was a balloon artist on the side,
Hmm?
and he won some big shot, big wig is in the bookstore that's influential in the art world. And Jeff Koons goes to him and pitches an idea of doing a giant balloon animal. And then this guy says, if I invest $5 million into this project, because of who I am, I can get someone else to pay me $10 million when it's done. And I wonder, and I whether this story is exactly correct or not, I don't know that it matters. I do believe that this is how the blue chip contemporary art market works. I mean, you could read. There's a lot of books on it. 7 Days in the Art World. The what is it? The um, Painted Word and various things that talk about this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
but I wonder if there's a couple really huge, wealthy movers and shakers that invested in a few paintings and were part of the first few auctions, and they just sort of created this hype because everyone that wants to be them goes in and wants to buy Western art now too, because Joe Schmo, who's a billionaire and wears cowboy hats, is into it. You know, I just wonder if it was just that lucky, or that, I mean, for the cowboy artist, I mean, lucky for them.
Yeah. I the more I'm sitting here thinking on the podcast, I think it maybe in the Western has more to do with community. You know,
Mm,
having my family from East Texas, which is more to do with Mississippi than rodeos like West Texas, but still the mentality, you know, that's a very devoted group of people in small pockets throughout the country, and because of oil in Texas, it's fairly well financed, right?
mm,
It's an easy, smaller environment in which they can flex in and do. I don't think most types of art have that specific a niche to allow in a community to support it. You
okay.
saw it with the Russian billionaires on some of the Russian artists, but like most things like that, it's a precarious house of cards that you don't know when it's going to fall.
Yeah.
Maybe there's going to be, you know, children of wealthy oilmen and stuff that inherit a bunch of high-end Western art, and instead of trying to dump it all in 20 years, they all want to keep buying new ones. You know, I don't know.
Hmm.
No guarantee it lasts though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the case
And,
for
and
everything, right? What do you?
And all I can think of is if you put let's just play, you put a bunch of atelier master portraitists like you or whatever, John Racine painters, like it's such a wide audience. Like, how do you zero in and market that with any, just putting a hat in the wall and saying you got to draw it to buy it doesn't create demand.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm well aware, nothing specifically of people doing it, but I'm well aware of, you could tell like where one artist was sold it, like where did that come from for 120 grand, and then all of a sudden four paintings would be at the same by the same artist at auction, and all of a sudden they'd all sell for 5 grand. It's a
Oof.
very, I
That's a
don't think you can
disappointed
really,
collector.
yeah, because it's all artificial. You
Yeah.
can't really. So to Western art's credit, who the hell knows why, except it's very active small community with a strong niche, has a lot of American Southwestern identity that's behind it. And it may be just some unique circumstances. I don't know.
Hmm.
Let's face it, a lot of wealth too is moving out west, you know.
Yeah.
I got so many clients that have second or third homes, but they're 10,000 square foot log cabin mansions in Montana or Wyoming, and be pretty tempting to put like some Western art in there, right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Maybe not an Atelier Florence Academy portrait. I don't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But to be fair, a lot of that contemporary art, I've been reading articles, and you probably have too, that's kind of fallen apart. I've read some articles about dealers going to Basel, and renting a house and putting their expensive paintings in there and saying, without the promise of the auction payoff, we're not doing well. We're going to have to close.
Really
And yeah, I can't remember where I read that. It was one of the big papers back east, but it was a dealer from
interesting.
New York who says, not like it used to. These younger collectors, I can't show them why them buying it for 200,000 is going to be worth 400,000 anymore. And guess what? Therefore, they don't want it. So it can unravel very quickly.
Wow. I don't that's that perhaps it shouldn't, but that kind of makes me a little happy.
Yeah, because you know what? In the end, the high quality, beautiful art's what
That's
survives.
what should survive. Yeah, seriously.
I was in a client's house. I can't mention the artist because I just can't.
Yeah.
But think top 5 artists in the history of mankind. Okay, like
Dead, alive?
dead.
Okay.
And we sold a few paintings there, and the lady said, "Hey, you guys are in the art business. You'd like that." So we go in,
I don't
and
understand.
there's
Why
just
can't you mention his name if he's dead?
I don't want it to even remotely identify this high profile person.
Oh, the collector. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but she clicked on the light in this little used living room, and there's 3 paintings there, and I'm guessing conservatively, if you sold those 3 paintings at auction, we're probably 500 million, something like that.
My gosh.
One of them was like maybe half a billion by itself on a good day.
Were these contemporary art? No, you said they're the world's best, so they're probably
Like
traditional.
yeah, like think home, Winslow Homer Johnson, but 10 times bigger. That level, okay?
Okay.
Globally. But it was just in the dark in a non-used room, and it was completely irrelevant to these people. And that really put art in perspective for me, that it's all transit. And so what's hot today may not be forever, and it's all going to last longer than us. So
Oh, that is such an interesting metaphor right there.
and dude, one of these paintings was something that global museums, like the biggest museums in the world, will give a tooth to have. It was that good,
And
that
they just
important.
have it in the dark.
Over a little cheap bench that grandkids put their Crocs on. Yeah, under.
Wow.
So
Just goes to show that
point being,
value is so in the, well,
wasn't
the
even in
beauty's
the
in the eye of
living
the
room they
beholder.
watched. Yeah, it wasn't even in the living room they watched TV in. It was just irrelevant. That was the ultimate irony. So when I hear about what's hot right now, what isn't, how much money I'm making, what my business plan is, it just doesn't matter. You just got to have fun. But that's where I always come back to, my God, be creative. Try something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
If you're 17 years old, like a Russian student, yeah, go learn how to classically figure draw and all that. But I see so many people in their 60s and stuff taking, and nothing against it. If you really want to learn classical drawings, go for it. But you're out of time.
Yeah.
Break some rules, man. Every Russian and Soviet artist that broke rules in the end was celebrated, even in the midst of their incredible training.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Start a painting for once with abstract washes instead of meticulous drawing. I don't care, but get your pulse racing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I always do the analogy of, like, I was a very average snow skier, maybe went 5 times in my life, but I remember the time I finally got enough bravery up, said, I'm leaving the bunny slope, man. And my friend took me up to an advanced slope, and I just pointed my skis downhill and just ripped it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think enough artists do that. We're on the
That's a
bunny
great
slope.
analogy. That's a great analogy. Well, that's probably because we're all afraid of something else happening. And that is,
Well, and people telling them you're doing it wrong.
well, no, because I'm going to follow up your analogy with
Yeah.
my version of your analogy. I learned to ski with my girlfriend in high school who was on the ski team. And we were doing the bunny slopes. And because I played hockey, I was pretty good, first time skier.
Nice.
And she's like, Jeff, you can do the black diamond. You're so good. So she took me up, and I got stuck in the first mogul underneath the chairlift, and people started spitting and saying "F you, get off the."
Nerd.
I was
That's
stuck. I
awesome,
couldn't
man.
get out. It was the most humiliating day of my life.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
rough.
that's what that's what we're all afraid of in the painting world. You don't want to get
Well,
stuck in a
but that's
mogul.
criticism.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
We're
think of
afraid of
all the great
criticism.
artists who, in hindsight, were only proven like, well, he's a master. Well, that's not what his contemporaries thought.
Mm-hmm.
We in the West have a real problem associating price with mastery.
Yeah.
I know some masters that can't sell, or just painting their versus guys selling $80,000 painters. Like, yeah, he's all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
But
true.
that's true in music, acting, anything, right? Athletics. How many amazing athletes never had a chance to even play college ball, let alone pros? So there's no guarantee talent gets noticed.
It's interesting you bring up athleticism because I'm a junkie for shorts, basketball shorts on
Okay.
YouTube. I love going back to 90s basketball, the Jordan days.
Oh God, I thought you actually meant shorts like you wear.
No,
I'm
no, no, no.
sorry.
No.
It's like, damn, you are weird.
You glad I clarified that. You didn't take that one
Yeah.
home.
Let's get that
No,
one
no,
out there.
YouTube shorts. Anyway, and I've always thought it's so funny that everyone's all talking about the GOAT. And for all we know, the GOAT we don't even know who this guy is. He's some dude
Yeah.
in some neighborhood somewhere just ripping it up, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, look, how can in the 85th year or whatever it is of American Idol, there's still all these people that are amazing that you've never heard of. It just
Exactly.
never ends,
That's
is
a
my
good
point.
point. That's a good point.
But even Simon Cowell says, quit singing like the artist. You got to make it your own. And I
Mm-hmm.
say the same thing. I challenge myself when I painted that. I don't
Yeah.
just, does it say anything?
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
I
I
have,
got a question I got to ask you.
yeah,
How you doing on time? Because we're at like an hour and a
dude,
half.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. I got to ask you this because every artist wants to know this, and granted, it's just one dealer's opinion, but you're a
Sure.
very respected dealer, so it matters. So, how do you want artists to approach you if they want to work with you?
Yeah. Look, this is really cliche, and it's probably not a good idea, even though I get it, just to walk in and hover at my desk, and I get that a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
if I have time, I at least meet with them, but it's not ideal. Um, I've had a few very nice people who are raised right call first and ask
Mm-hmm.
for an appointment. What I need to see in some form is just a simple email. I need to see no more than 5 paintings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see the full smorgasbord of how you used to do contemporary. You can do portraits, you can do animals. No, I want to see you like a unique vision you got that's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need someone to paint like the wall of my kid's room, because you can.
Right.
So 5 or 6 paintings, generally in the same kind of like style motive you're working in at the moment. I'm not saying it can't change in the future. I want to see consistency. I personally look for whether, like I said, it says anything or it's just you just picked our gallery because you're painting a lot like somebody I already carry.
Mm-hmm.
And then send the email, and I try to let everybody know. There's some that I just forget or can't. I got too busy,
But you
but
always
but I
look at the
will,
emails.
of course, and
Okay.
I will give the artists a saving grace, which is it can be a little hurtful when you hear it, but if you got what I need, you're going to get contacted, and I can
Mm-hmm.
promise you that with almost any dealer. If they click on a link or open 3 attachments and your breath's taken away, you're going to get notified. The problem is the artist who can do that probably already knows that and
Yeah.
may not gallery.
Yeah.
So then you get into the substrata, like I said, where not all galleries are going to take a young local artist just for their future potential. They need them to hit right now,
Mm-hmm.
or but so let me give this a different perspective. I get a lot of artists that come in and start talking, and I'm just like, oh God, don't say the wrong thing. Don't say it. Because as soon as I do, the phone gets stuck in my face. Well, let me just show you. Or worse, their mother or girlfriend shows it and the artist is cowering 10. I'm like, look, it's amazing. And I used to be in direct sales, so I get it. I used to cold call ICUs, so I know you got to be a little pushy, but
Yeah.
uh, it's not the best way to go, because just ask if you could send an email with just 4 or 5 pictures. Um,
Hmm.
but I also ask artists to be really honest. If someone's standing from my desk, I'll say, look, before you show me the phone, I want you honestly to look around more than just a precursory glance and tell me honestly whether you think your art belongs in here. Does it fit the vibe? Does it fit the quality? And it's amazing how many artists don't even hear me and say, yeah, I do. And then they show me just the most god awful stuff. So just
Hmm.
be smart, same way you'd pick a spouse, pick a gallery, right?
I think
We
some
all
people
make
genuinely can't see the difference.
I do.
It's crazy. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a gallery with, I'm going to just say lay people, people not in the art field of
Right.
any kind. And they pick, and I'll say, what's your favorite painting? And they'll pick the worst thing in there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Why do I even try to paint well if people can't even see it? And then, of course, and if you're a painter, if you're, okay. Oh, I was going to tell you a story, but I'm not going to. I want to pass on that one. But
All right.
if you're a painter, a lot of times you can't tell either. You just can't. You're new to it. You don't realize it. I remember once when I was young. I was in my early 20s, and I painted my wife. I drew my wife, and
Mhm.
I remember thinking I was it. I'm like, dang, no one can draw better than me.
That's a little healthy maybe too at times, but okay.
But I look back at that drawing. It's in my basement now. And
Sure.
I'm just like, what in the world was I thinking?
Well, that's the same way looking back at a 30-year-old photo before you went out on a Saturday night and looking at your
And
clothes and hairdo.
you
Like,
got your mullet.
dude, you ain't
Yeah.
no stud after all. Right?
Oh man. Yeah.
I, uh, I,
Some people just can't see it for lack of training, lack of taste. I don't know what it is.
I
But
the
yeah.
most snobby thing I ever came up with, and it took me 20 years, and I'll say it, it's just a rough epiphany I had, and that's one day I realized that a lot of people like bad art.
Yeah, I know. It
Just don't
makes
know
it
better.
hard to try, you
And
know?
what's insane is you know, uh, somebody will say, when you sell art, it's pretty expensive. Even bad art's expensive. And so you're dealing with confident, successful people who can drop 18 grand in a painting, right?
Yeah.
They're used to being the boss. They're used to being right. So, but I want to tell them, like, you could buy $18,000 and buy a good painting. So it doesn't really matter if it makes me smile when I walk by every day. It's still a bad painting.
Yeah.
Find a good painting that makes you smile every day.
Yeah.
But then I go back to the famous painting hanging in the dark room, and it's kind of like, Paul, lighten up. It ain't important in the end.
It's true. If they're happy, they're
Art will
happy.
survive. Yeah,
Yeah. If they
we're all
like
on
it.
our unique path. So,
And I mean, and who knows if we're right? Maybe you and I are the ones with the bad taste.
oh, I know I got a bad attitude, but I'll tell
I
you
mean,
one quick
seriously.
story.
Yeah.
I had years ago a client who worked for Disney. He was a big producer, and he brought in his friend one day, and she was at the time in charge of all costume design for global Disney. And she had a good friend who was Lithuanian American, and this friend brought me a book of her friend's dad's artwork. He was in his 80s from Lithuania, Soviet period. Pretty incredible drawings and unique art. And I about a month later, I read the introduction, and he said where he was a little kid back in God knows 1935 or something,
Mm-hmm.
living in a little village in modern day Belarus, and he was aware of this young guy teaching children art in like this house. And he took a couple of weeks. He wanted to approach him, but he was shy. But he finally approached this guy and asked him if he could take classes. And the guy gave him a paper and some pencil and said, "Go draw me something and then come back." So he went out in the country, walked away, drew like some trees in a field and some hay and stuff. And the guy said, "That's pretty good." So he invited him to sit down at this wood table where he had made like a still life of some kind, of like a flowering branch he cut off and something, pine cones. And there's 3 or 4 other kids there. And he gave him a new piece of paper and stuff. and he started to walk off, and then he turned around and said, "Oh, one rule, you've got to draw it from the inside out,"
Hmm.
and just left. And this 12-year-old kid like had to think about it, like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Um, his point was, is this guy, the teacher, ended up, before he was known, was a guy named Kazimir Malevich. And Malevich arguably is the most famous Russian artist in history. He was 20, 30 years ahead of New York modernists doing abstract work. If it's, I think it's illegal to even export his stuff from Russia. You do
Hmm.
like red box and a white square, constructivist. I mean, it could easily be in the hundreds of millions. And his point was, Casimir wasn't teaching me how to think and to become a contemporary artist. He just knew how important, from my very first art lesson, it was more than technique.
Mm.
Had to start having a perspective, a unique way of looking at things, or I was not going to amount one day to be somebody who had something to say. And that stuck with me. And I think about that, and you can get into the bunny slope and all that again, but what a unique way, like you're already cultivating the perspective of how to think like an artist, not just the technical side.
Yeah.
And somehow you can translate that. I don't know, but I think it would be vitally important to create a new era of just like moving art.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if commercial America would allow it, to be frank.
Hmm.
I don't know how many Gustav Klimts can just pop up out of nowhere and be like, wow, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough
But can you
enough to
imagine
go
if,
around.
yeah, can you imagine if Gauguin or Klimt were painting Western genre scenes right now? Like, how would we even process that? Would they even be successful?
I don't
I
think
don't
they
know. That's the
would.
kind of, they should be.
No, I don't think they would
Oh,
because they
yeah.
painted their time, they painted their place. It's
But did
yeah.
they, or did they just create it? The style was so unique. It's like they created their own environment.
Well, actually, you're kind of right. I mean, Klimt was influenced by, if I remember right, like Japanese prints and stuff, wasn't he?
Maybe, I don't know. You know more than me.
Not, I doubt that,
But
but yeah,
I know the one thing, they're timeless. And
yeah,
that's
they are
really the
now.
ultimate
Yeah.
goal, like music or anything. Like you can take a Creedence Clearwater Revival song from 1970 and put it in a soundtrack to Mission Impossible, and it will still sound timely.
Hmm.
Very few songs, art, or anything does that. But someone like a Klimt, a Van Gogh will always be timeless. And I think that's the ultimate goal. But you got to
Yeah.
create an environment to do it, and that takes risks.
Yeah.
My humble opinion.
No, I think you're spot on. It definitely takes risks. It's scary.
And
I,
what's wild is I think the most copied type of art in America today is actually abstract expressionism. We've got so many people painting the same abstract art that it's no longer even unique.
well, because people think it's easy.
That too.
It's
Yeah.
not easy. A lot of people think I don't like abstract because certain things I've said on here. I love abstract work,
Any good artist does.
but there's so much that's not good. I think people think it's like
Yeah.
people like, oh, I can splash paint around and be an artist. It's like,
Yeah,
dude,
and pull the trowel that way and pull the
composition is
trowel
one of
that
the
way.
hardest parts of art making.
Big time.
And if you're going to be an abstract painter, you better be good at composition because you're not going to be able to show off your academic training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just once in a while you get, I don't know. You can tell the abstract artist with the natural sense of composition and
Yeah.
how to take something mundane and make it unique and
Yeah.
moving. There's
Yeah.
some good ones.
I agree. There's some really great abstract painters. Well, dude, this has been fun, man. I am
I hope
so
so.
glad I chose you to be my first gallery. Seriously.
Thank you, man.
It's
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're my
That's an honor.
first. You're my first. I've had a dealer before, but never a gallery owner. So
Yeah,
you're my first gallery owner.
awesome.
I do want to ask you one more question. You've kind of already answered this
Uh-huh.
like half a dozen times, but I'm
Yeah,
going to
hit
ask
me
you
with
for
some
one
hard
more.
gallery questions. That's fun.
Well, what's that?
Hit me with some hard gallery
I
questions.
don't have any
That's
more
fun.
gallery questions. I'm blank,
Okay.
but I'm going to give you my final question, and that is, what piece of advice that you haven't already given, obviously, because you've already sort of alluded to a lot of things that can be taken as advice.
Yeah.
What advice would you give an artist that wants to work with a gallery and make a living making paintings?
That's a fair question. If everybody from philosophers to the CIA say to best understand everybody, you've got to start looking at someone else's perspective, not your perception of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is try to understand the perspective of a gallery owner you're going to draw the attention of.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think I want to see in here? And I'll give you some examples. Understand the business. Understand that for me to put you in here, you have to fit the quality, you have to fit the price, subject, everything. Okay. So have that first honest conversation. Is this a gallery I even need to approach? Because
Okay,
my
but
stuff's not right or wrong.
I got to cut you off there.
Yep.
But without copying one of your existing artists, you have to fit in without being a copycat, right?
For me, but like I said, there's entire galleries where every artist looks exactly the same because the gallery owner doesn't know any better.
Okay, so maybe that's not.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
To me, you might want to be unique, but if you look at 10 artists and you paint the same and they're all sold 90% of their artists, congrats. You'll probably pay your mortgage next month
Okay.
and I'll send you flowers. Two, just look at like I said earlier, understand that me to carry you costs me money, whether I'm selling or not. Just that realization, if you're talking to a gallery owner, will be an incredible thing for the gallery owner to say, wow, this guy gets it. And the good gallery owner will then reciprocate and say, look, and I understand your process, your time, your style and skill has taken an entire lifetime to build. I get that. Maybe then think about, being a little more conducive to true synergy. Like, look, I understand advertising is expensive and shows aren't easy to come by, but if I can and when I can, I don't mind helping a little if it helps. And I do that very little, but I have had artists help, pay for an ad I didn't want to run and stuff. But they saw it as beneficial and I was willing to meet them halfway and say, all right, that helps. I appreciate that. But anything like that, when you approach a gallery, just being aware of their perspective and saying, look, I understand this, that takes a lot of pressure off a gallery owner and makes it more conducive to maybe wanting to support you if the art's right.
Hmm.
What's going to scare the hell out of me is, like this guy's going to be wanting to show and pissed off at me in a year, even though I've sold 2 paintings and he hadn't been here long. Nobody wants that headache.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to understand our perspective and then hopefully it's reciprocated or maybe you should move on, regardless of whether the gallery wants you. You need to make a good match too.
Yeah.
There's some gallery owners. I pray people, just not a good situation, but you can't tell them that for various reasons.
Right. Yeah. One of the things you said, it made me think of advice I give my students. If I see a weakness that has nothing to do with art, like for example, I was just recently telling one of my students, the thing I worry about you is there are 2 things I worry about with you. You're going to get walked all over because you got to be bold and you got to be willing to you got to do business with a gallery. You can't just like you gave the perfect example. You can't have your girlfriend showing your phone while you're cowering in the background, right?
Yeah.
And I said,
it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. And so to be an artist, you kind of have to, you work on your spine a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
look, I've had 6 or 7 really wonderful young people work for us over the years. And now that I think about it, I think all 6 or 7 cold called me and walked up to the desk. Are you hiring?
It's impressive.
And then I just get a feeling and I'm like, there may be something here. So I start talking and all of a sudden they may work for us for a year and a half.
Yeah.
You can do it, but you have, just think about it a little and hit the magic buttons of like understanding my perspective of, I hate to say it, but I feel your pain. And then I'll say, well, I feel yours too. Now, how do we fix it and make something that's beneficial to both of us?
Okay, I told you that was my last question, but now I do have a hard gallery question. Well, we'll maybe end on this one.
Okay.
Okay. So times have changed a lot. Magazines are not, I mean, they're not, they don't have the reach they used to have. People aren't reading them as much. Social media is basically free for artists and for galleries to use to market their work. So it's a little different than when I started in 2002, where I don't know what my galleries were paying for ads, but I think it was sometimes in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, for certain ads. Where now a lot of the galleries I know are mostly doing their marketing on social media because
Yeah.
no one's reading the magazines. So that's a huge cost savings for the gallery.
Yep.
And yeah, and obviously artists, you know, myself, I have a higher, I think I have much higher than the average artist as far as expenses because I own my own building and everything. But artists have their own expenses, right? And there's only one artist that's earning money for them where you have, I don't know how many artists you have, 40? I don't know what you got.
Maybe a core at 20,
20?
25.
Okay. So, you know, 20 artists selling work versus one artist selling work. I have overhead, you have overhead. Tell me a little more about what this overhead is. Like, make a case to the artist out there that your overhead justifies your portion of the income from the sale.
That's a good question. And I would say there's two parts. One is the actual fiscal cost. Two is an ethereal thing I'll mention that
Okay.
you can't put a value on, but it's super important.
Okay.
Look, I got rents, I got payroll, like any business. I got pretty expensive insurances. It's amazing how many people send things that aren't ready. So I've got sometimes stretching. Somebody sends something, it needs to be this just happened. We sold
Right.
a painting 40 by 40 painting showed up, got it to the client's house. It was on panel, and all of a sudden we noticed it was so warped, it was a joke. So we just sent it back. They had to fix it. They had to reframe it. It took forever. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I have to upfront a cost of a frame because you can't afford one, but don't have a shot of selling unless it's framed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it's worth $10,000. Not every gallery will do that, and I don't do it for everybody. Um, got, my God, I mean, insurance in the certain times a year, my air conditioning bill is 1,500 a month
Holy
at one
piss.
space.
Oh,
At
yeah. Oh,
one
you're in
space.
Arizona. Jeez.
Yeah, but
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
shipping, UPS, FedEx, and you can say that it's not all because we sold some. It's just a ton of expenses. So
Yeah. And I can't
whatever you
imagine what
think
your
it
rent
is,
is. It
then
might,
double it, right? It's
yeah.
like a remodel cost. And then you realize whatever we sell, we only get half of. So
Mm-hmm.
from my perspective, we got to sell a hell of a lot of art. Now, where people, the perception of galleries is so weird. You can talk like an artist or me even. You can walk down the street and some gallery says, "Oh, we had the best February we've ever had," and you're thinking, "Well, this other gallery just said theirs was pretty average." But what you don't realize is their best month may have only paid for 10% of my expenses.
Mm.
So you always have perspectives of it's a sliding scale again. But we
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of expenses. Um, and that's, you know, just like any business, anybody that's ever owned a small business, it adds up a lot faster than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other side of it is, and I prove this is worth something by some examples, is the fact, look, nothing legitimizes an artist like being in a high-end gallery.
Mm-hmm.
I have dropped artists before. It's been a while, but I had an artist once call and tell me, "Hey, I had a studio show," and it's always the same exact excuse. I said, "You did? Okay. How'd you do?" "Well, I sold like 12 paintings." She said, "But don't worry, they're not paintings any of my galleries wanted." That's the first thing I always hear. But then I've had them say, "Yeah, but that article that the gallery did on me in so and so magazine, I had at the foreground. People thought that was really good." I'm like, "So we legitimized you," which everybody's like, "Wow, you're in a really high end gallery in Scottsdale." And I said, "Did you sell at retail?" I said, "Well, these are things you didn't want." And I sold them like half off or something. And I'm like, "Well, thank you very much. We'll part ways now."
It's the same story I gave to you, except he didn't pay you.
Yeah. But point
Yeah.
is that we legitimize. There's nothing like that.
Right.
It's like, look, you can buy a brand new Porsche in some guy's backyard, but does it feel as good as buying it in the Porsche dealership? Does it seem the same?
That's a really good point. Mm-hmm.
And so the legitimizing factor is fairly priceless, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're really curious, ask your gallery owner. I'd be glad to break down for any of my artists within reason what my monthly expenses are, and you can see it's no cakewalk.
I can't even imagine what your rent is in Main Street.
So Scottsdale is much better than places like Santa Fe and stuff. So I'm probably paying for 3 galleries no more than what some galleries by themselves are paying in Santa Fe.
Yeah, but it's still got to be a lot. And Main Street
Well,
in
of course,
Scottsdale?
yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you got to
Santa
sell
Fe is like
tens
a.
of thousands of dollars a month just to pay for your rent. Then you get into payroll and
Okay, you
everything
basically
else.
just told us your rent is tens of thousands. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a freaking lot of rent.
You could
Holy
go up to
cow.
the strip mall in North Scottsdale where all your clients come from, but nobody will buy you there. But your rent may be $6,500 a month.
And I just bought $1,000 painting from you, so I put only $500 toward that rent. I feel
Oh,
kind of
dude, I'm super
I feel
happy.
kind of guilty about that now. I should have bought something more expensive.
No, man, I went and got a haircut. It was worth it.
It's a nice looking
And one
haircut.
coffee. I actually did it myself. You can probably tell.
It looks great, man. Looks great.
Thank you.
Oh shoot. Yeah, that was so much fun. Yeah, thanks for doing it.
That was
And
good.
thanks for your transparency. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners will. So
I hope so. I hope I'm not too opinionated, but
no, man, I think you're great. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next January.
awesome. Always.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, man.
Best to you and your family, man.
You too.
Take
Take
care.
care. Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends, and if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.